I realized, or like in our entire team, we realized that we were completely working the entire time relentlessly, 24/7 really. And it was not manageable. We were making not good decisions anymore. We were just running after things. We were not able to achieve them anymore. Because there was so much to do that we were just chasing things instead of making informed decisions and being at the point where we have a foundation where like, okay, now we go based on an informed decision in that direction. I also realized normally I'm never sick. Like I'm always healthy, knock on wood. But at that time I was literally getting sick all the time. Like I was currently ready and then I was getting sick again. I was like, hell, how is that possible? Like normally I'm never sick, and I just didn't get out of the vicious circle of getting sick, then having something else, then having problems here, there, being completely stressed. And I just realized that, yeah, there is definitely another side of entrepreneurship.
This is my conversation with Leo Rinser, a young founder so deeply motivated by his mission to help other people in the healthcare and metabolical space. We talk about a lot on purpose and how his inner purpose actually led him to go through very challenging situations, and regardless of the difficulties, he's still thriving as a founder. We also talk a lot about the habits of routines and how he built his own routines for performance, and especially what has been the fairy tale that his mother always used to tell him that inspires him every day to become a better founder. Follow this conversation and let me know what you think in the comments. Hi, Leonard. Welcome to the Founders Bible. How's it going today?
Hello, Alessandro. It's amazing. Thank you so much for the invite, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for being here. I'm glad to hear before preparing the conversation. You're getting into summer. You're based in Munich, so very. I see already the sun coming out on your face. So that's very nice to see. Let me break the ice with the very first question that I keep asking all of my guests here on the podcast. Why the heck are you a founder? Tell me a little bit about your story.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I think a founder is how I became a founder is when I was a child. When I was a child, I already told my mom I want to be an inventor. Every time she asked me, "What do you want to become?" I was like, "I want to be an inventor." So I think it was nearly clear that I will end up in, I don't know, science research or entrepreneurship. And over the years, I just realized that for me, there is more than only inventing things, but I'm also interested in, yeah, selling things and bringing things to people in the end. So I think that's the thing that came later in my life. But that's the thing. I always invented things. I love to build things, and especially I love two things, like building solutions that help people to, yeah, understand what they really need and bring them joy and happiness. I think that's the main part. And then starting with health. So where like when people describe who I am, they first in the beginning they were like, "Hey, this is Leo. He's building a healthcare company. He's doing that." And nowadays they're like, "Hey, this is Leo. This is the health guy." So I think everything else about health, because I'm just obsessed about bringing people the ability to understand how beautiful health can be and what an art health can be. And yeah, that this is probably the foundation of a happy and fulfilling life. And this brought me into entrepreneurship, this connection of the obsession about health and solving health. And on the other side, the obsession of building, inventing things, and bringing things to people.
That's amazing. You reminded me of when I was a kid. I also used to say for a period of time, then it changed into architecture probably at some point. But yeah, I also wanted to be an inventor as my grandfather. But I never connected it until very late to the entrepreneurship part. It was a friend of mine that told me, but Ale, you kept saying that you were an inventor and now you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you're actually the same. It's like, I never talked about it like that. Interesting, wonderful. So, Leo, another big thing that I love to cover on the podcast is the non-told stories behind the
Mhm.
success stories. It's not that I'm tired of listening to success stories, but I want to show people that there is much more behind it. And so the very first questions are, what have been the walls that you hit, face completely like smashed in your past? What did you learn from there? Where has been pain? I think not because I want to make a kind of a soap opera, like the pathos around the conversation, but it's important that we keep sharing that is not easy, right? So
Yeah.
where and when it's not been easy for you?
I think for me, there were a couple of situations where it was pretty challenging, especially last year in last year in January. I think I hit rock bottom. For me, that was the moment when with the previous company we had a, I would call it opportunistic exit opportunity. We had a list company from I think it was Poland, interested in buying our solution, and we were like, we should maybe explore it and see what's in there. But at the same time we were fundraising, and the connection between doing fundraising, which is already a thing that's more than full time, and on the other side preparing, exploring an exit that is also most of the time more than full time, was completely challenging. And I realized, or like in our entire team, we realized that we were completely working the entire time relentlessly, 24/7 really. And it was not manageable. We were making not good decisions anymore. We were just running after things. We were not able to achieve them anymore. Because that was so much to do that we were just chasing things instead of making informed decisions and being at the point where we have a foundation where like, okay, now we go based on an informed decision in that direction. And I think that was super challenging at the time. I also realized normally I'm never sick. Like I'm always healthy, knock on wood. But at that time, I was literally getting sick all the time. Like I was currently ready, and then I was getting sick again. I was like, hell, how is that possible? Like normally I'm never sick, and I just didn't get out of the vicious circle of getting sick, then having something else, then having problems here, there, being completely stressed. And I just realized that yeah, there is definitely another side of entrepreneurship. And I think also before that, what was super challenging is you only see, or I think we changed it a bit. So you not only see the successes, but also, for example, companies like even I think Lovable is a good example because that's a company that's currently completely going through the roof, and they also did so many things. They tried so many approaches, and some of them didn't work out. And in our case, it was the same. We were building literally so many different features, solutions, approaches, and in the end we realized that they just, some of them just don't work. And if you build like, I don't know, 10 different approaches and all of them fail, then you literally also have a moment where you're like, damn, I can't. And we didn't stop. We went further, but
Why?
it
How
was a
could you
moment.
manage not to stop?
I think for us it was like we were a team where we definitely had a lot of trust. And also, and that's the beauty, like I'm completely obsessed with health, and all my other founders were also super interested in healthcare, and they were like, hey, I want to build something in healthcare. And I think that was the mission and the purpose, that we just realized what we are doing has an incredible impact. And I think it goes even further, because the people for whom we've built that solution, we were in the metabolic health space developing a solution in that moment for people with type 1 diabetes. They wrote us on weekly basis, hey, this is so cool that someone is approaching this problem, I need this. And when we had the product tests, they were like, hey, this is literally solving a problem that I had for years. And this feeling of realizing how literally they had sparkling eyes, and they were like, hey, this is exactly what I was looking for. That was the moment where we were like, hey, damn, we are building the right thing, we are doing something that really has an impact. And I think even because we were struggling all the time, because like there is type 1 diabetes, there is type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is a huge market. Type 1 diabetes is more like a niche, you could say. And we were like, hey, we want to help people with type 1 diabetes, because we had that mission driven approach also. And we realized that we really changed their lives. And I think literally experiencing this was something that drove us even further. And we were like, okay, we need to keep on doing this.
Yeah, having a super strong vision, an impactful one, it's definitely key. You said at the beginning that you got into this space because you wanted to make people happy, or somehow kind of like the happiness work came
Yeah.
out. Were there ever times that you did not feel happy?
During founding the company,
Yeah. In your entrepreneurial journey, I would say in general.
yeah. Hmm. That's a pretty good question. And if I would think about, I would say no. I was always happy. It was super hard. I was feeling definitely not good. I can say it like it is. I felt shit for some times, but I was still not in the point where I was like, I'm not happy anymore. I was at the end. I was completely exhausted, and I was wondering, why am I doing what I'm doing? But I would say deep down I was still happy, and that's the reason why I'm still doing what I do, why I'm still in health, why I'm still an entrepreneur. Because in the end, the foundation is definitely, if I question it like 5 times why, I would end up and be like, hey, I'm happy. And for me, I think this is also something that's a funny fairy tale my mom always read to me when I was a little child. And it was a fairy tale about the guy who went out to learn to fear. This this was a fairy tale a German fairy tale, very famous, and it was my favorite one. And literally, my mom was reading that fairy tale for years every evening, because I loved it so much that this guy always went out to learn how it is to fear and to get to know the fear. And I think like something, I don't know where I got this from, but something regarding that, getting to know my fear and trying to understand my fear and always crossing the borders and realizing, hey, how can I interact with my fear that I can understand it and work with it, was probably also something that really motivated me, and where I was like, I'm I enjoy it to also lean into fear. And probably that is also the reason why I'm still an entrepreneur, and why I'm also pretty confident that it will be all the time. But
Wow.
yeah.
You like this story makes me kind of get a feeling that you have a different kind of reason why you're making companies, and explaining why. So for a lot of founders that I interviewed, both online, like both publicly or not, it seems to me that there's a recurrent thing, which, and to be honest, I'm part of them. Okay. um, there is a lot of unresolved trauma from childhood that you kind of go, like, you can go two ways, right? On one end, you become somebody that is not functional, I don't know, an alcoholic or something,
Mm.
among other issues. But then on the other, you overcompensate by working your ass off. And I was definitely one of them. Uh, and one of the reasons why I'm doing these conversations, and the work that I'm doing now with my latest venture, is exactly to kind of try to, first of all, put some light on the situation, and like, guys, let's be aware of this, what is really behind, but also to help, of course. And when you tell me this story, then shall I like guess that you haven't had these issues, and like you haven't started your companies to prove anything to anyone? Like, what's the reason back? And I connect also to, like, I've been doing a little bit of research before this conversation, and I think ChatGPT deep research went quite back in your history of posting, on LinkedIn and so on. I found a keyword, or like a sentence, you saying you're always fighting between megalomany and humility, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I want to go into learning a little bit your story here.
Yeah. Definitely. I think I had to laugh when you talked about a very serious topic, because I was like, hey, I'm also part of that. Like, of course, I would say every founder has it in a way. Some founders have it very, very present. I would say I'm probably not one of them where it is super over present, but I still have it. Like 100%, there is something where I'm like, I need to prove something to myself. Like there is something where I don't feel enough and where I have the feeling I need to go that extra mile. And I just want to also say, like, I definitely have this too. I would say that still a huge part of it is my curiosity and the part of learning to fear and going out and realizing to, yeah, how it is possible to understand my fear and work with it. But definitely there is also part of trauma and proving something and not having that feeling of you're enough and you need to prove something. I just want to add that this is I probably haven't talked to one single founder, like you also mentioned, where this was never part of the story. So yeah, I think founders in a way are a bit crazy, and that's part of it. But to
Yeah,
come
we
back
must
to
be.
the
Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this job.
absolutely, like there was a super nice interview. I don't know by whom it was, but it was pretty good. Where he was like, "Yeah, if you would be smart, you would just work for consulting and McKinsey or get a job somewhere. But founders are not smart. They are crazy. And in a way, they have an obsession about solving a topic that this is far beyond just being smart. But this goes a bit beyond, because otherwise they would just have a good job and earn some good money. That's it. Because the drive to build something is probably there for every founder. But to come back to the obsession and not more to the humility and megalomania topic, a friend of mine who had it in his status back then, and then I was like, yeah, definitely, that's 100% how I would describe myself, because I was always, when people were asking me like, why are you doing it? I was like, I'm not 100% sure. I just love it. And when I think about how much money I need in life, I come back to the point like, yeah, I'm super happy. Like we have a ritual since over 10 years where I meet with friends from my hometown. We have canoes, and some of the friends they're living there since I don't know how many decades with their family, and they own quite some land next to a beautiful river. And we are on this river paddling and then going out, having our tents there, sleeping under the stars sometimes. And this is super beautiful. And this is what really really makes me happy, and what's not associated with work. And this costs me 50 euros. So I don't need much money to be super happy. So on the one side, that's where I'm saying like, okay, I don't need much. But on the other side, there is megalomania. If I think about solving something, I want to solve like everything, and I want to work on problems that are huge and meaningful. And that's the reason why I say that there is the connection between humility and megalomania.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely relate with this. I had to learn it over time and with a lot of painful lessons, to be honest. I don't feel it ever came supernatural for me, but I got to the point where I
Mm,
realized happiness is something different,
yeah.
completely different, and doesn't need to be material. Okay, let me make a quick break from the show to explain you why this project came alive. 6 months ago, I started interviewing founders to understand what were the secret sauces for their success. But even more importantly, I was curious to understand how much pain they had to go through in order to achieve their dreams. I've been an entrepreneur myself for the past 10 years, and I know exactly how painful this journey is, but very few people are actually willing to talk about it. And that's exactly what we're doing at the Founders Bible for Resilience. We're finally breaking the toxic hustle culture behind startup life. I'm on a mission to build a new generation of founders, Founders that can leverage ancient wisdom and science for true long term peak performance and longevity. If you want to be part of this movement, then check out wholegrainwisdom.com and join us now. Okay, now back to the show. Leo, I'm curious to know a little bit now on how do you keep yourself at peak performance, right? We discussed a little bit
Mhm.
of the painful lessons. How did you, not so much probably how you came out from there. I do feel probably you have an inner drive that is so powerful that especially being working in such strong missions, I think it definitely helps. How, beside, let's say, the spiritual call, let's call it like
Mhm.
that, what do you do for yourself to be with your mind, with your body, like centered and there for the company, for the task that you need to do?
Yeah. I think one of the most important things are my routines that I established. I have them since way over 5 years, and it works. It works absolutely amazing, and they are body and mind. And for example, I was like back then when I was like starting to study, I was the guy who when I had a call at 9 a.m. in the morning, I was waking up at 8:55 and, and was sitting in front of the MacBook and was like, okay, good morning. I was like already asleep, still asleep a bit. And then I changed it. Like a good friend, he had like a challenge, and he were like, hey, we should start to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning for a week and do a workout in the morning. And I was like, yeah, I do work out in the evening, but sometimes because I have longer meetings, I forget it, or I want to meet friends and I forget it. And then I was like, yeah, why not try it? And so I tried it and I realized, okay, waking up at 5 is definitely not something that works for me, but I love exercising in the morning. So I tried like different times. I tried then 7, 6, 6:30, and then I ended up around 6, 6:30 in the morning waking, and this works absolutely amazing. And now I do it like that. I wake up at around 6:30 in the morning. And the first thing I do is like a calisthenics home workout. So I fall out of bed directly on my yoga mat to do some workout. And this is something that really changed a lot, where I'm waking up and I'm directly in my workout mode and do my workouts at home. I think this is definitely also something that works pretty good for me because I can do it everywhere. I created a routine where I don't have any excuses. I can work out in a hotel, I can work out on vacation literally every time because the workout routine is just adapted to, yeah, making that happen. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is like fueling my body with the right things. So I'm really, really mindful about the calories that make the way in my body. And it's about like I try to eat as healthy as possible and very functional too. So not only trying to have organic food that is just like tasty and nice and healthy, but also that's very functional so that I know I have all the nutrients that I need, and making sure that I always fuel my body. On the other side, to be, yeah, very open and clear in the morning, I do intermittent fasting. So I don't eat until 12. And this works pretty good. And then over the years, I added meditation. And now my morning routine, which is the most important thing for me, is like waking up, exercising, then every second day doing some yoga, on the other day some abs workout, and then afterwards I was trying meditation. But meditation was the first thing that I skipped when I was stressed. So now I start when I wake up, before I even touch my phone, I meditate for 10 to 15 minutes. And the same in the evening. The last thing in the evening is again meditation. And this really calms my brain. And I realized it. Like when I meditated in the morning, it was super calm. And when I meditate in the evening, I realize how many thoughts are still racing through my mind. And I'm like, wow, I just don't realize it before how much is still going on there. And then taking time to cook. Like for me, like cooking. Like for me, it's like if I need 2 hours a day for me, my workout routine and cooking and good eating. That's that's the most important thing for me, and everything else is manageable to adapt in a way. But those 2 hours, I don't skip them. Like I'm super clear not skipping them. And
Did
I
you ever feel like guilty for taking these hours? Have you ever felt like, oh no, my gosh, the investor wants me at this time, or my co-founder wants me at that time?
Definitely not by like I would never compromise on them because I realize or like I realized over the years, I didn't realize it in the beginning that entrepreneurship is a long-term game. A long-term game with long-term people, and one of the long-term people is you. So if you don't take care about you, you will not be able to play a long-term game. So no matter if it's my co-founders or my investors, they are all interested in me being able to play the long-term game. And if something is a bit off or a bit later than normally, they will be okay if they know that I don't stress myself out in a way, that I know how to be resilient and work in a way with my body that I can do the long-term game and I'm not burned out after 3 to 4 years. Like this is also one of the main things why companies fail, because the founders burn out because they are not good in energy management or they are just not resilient. And I think that is something where I focus a lot on.
Did you feel like some kind of challenges to implement these routines, or did they just come out naturally for you?
Mm, I think nowadays I would feel more challenged. Back then, definitely not, because back then I was more hardcore. So even when I went to bed at 2 a.m. in the morning, there was no compromise. I woke up at 6:30 to do my workout. And I compromised on sleep and stuff. Something I wouldn't do today, but it was very important to set up that routine. So being that radical and be like, no matter what happens, I will not skip my routine. And doing that for, I don't know, a year or so in the beginning was definitely also the reason how I was able to manifest that routine. And I think that was also the reason why I didn't struggle that much. If I would try to implement it today, I think I would struggle more than back then.
Hmm. I see. Well, as a person that got to those routines by as a result of
Mm,
inevitability, because like my
mm,
mind and body couldn't really like function
yeah.
otherwise, I really had to like I had to get to rock bottom in order to allow myself to get there. uh I definitely must say kudos, because definitely it's, I mean, having the freedom for this, I think it's a big challenge for people. Maybe depending also on the generation, I feel like younger generation are probably a little bit more prone to like self-awareness about their body and their health. Older generation, even older than my own generation, you know, mental health it was not a thing. It was just like toughen up, boy.
I think so, definitely too. I think also I call my habits that I have today habits for they are sustainable and they are for sustainable health. But establishing them was neither healthy nor sustainable in a way, because like it was just completely like in Germany we say Vollgas, so like complete speed and crush it, and was like I don't care what's in the way. I need to make sure that I stick to those habits. So it was by far not healthy, and it was also not very sustainable if I would have continued it like that. But I needed this to establish them in a way that they are healthy and sustainable today. So this is very interesting that in the beginning they were not healthy and not sustainable, but I needed to do it to make it now sustainable. So it was sacrificing half a year or a year to make sure that the next 5 to 6 years are sustainable. And this was also something where I'm still interested in learning the balance, because I think some things need to be unsustainable to later on be sustainable. That's very like it's hard to grasp, but I think this is, at least for me, it was that way. And with everything I do. So also with my workload. I did, it was insane and definitely not sustainable, but I needed to approach it in that way to get to the point where I'm now, to understand how I can create it to, being sustainable. I think I
Amazing,
wouldn't be able.
wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Let me end up with one last question. Uh, I normally make it a little bit longer, but you answered me already quite extensively on your routine. So I'm curious if you could implement something right now that you haven't implemented, but it's on your radar, or a couple of things that are on your radar to boost your performance, your routine even more. What would they be?
Mm, walks. Like, this is definitely something that I'm trying. Like, going out for a walk after, like, I don't know,
Mm.
lunch or so. Like, I realized that sometimes a short break will make me so much more efficient that I definitely could sacrifice 30 minutes, because afterwards I'm so much more efficient that I get in another hour in time that I save because I'm more efficient by doing it. But I still can't get my mind around it to do it. Then going out more in nature, where I have, like in the woods, like when I see all the trees, this is something that calms me down extremely, and this is something that I definitely think is super important. And I would call it more active rest. Of course, rest, but I try to, like, I think every entrepreneur struggles in a way with having more rest. Um, but resting more, but in a way also actively resting. So going out for a walk, going in nature, being in nature more. I think this is something that I definitely want to implement. And yeah, I think this would be the most important habit, because the rest is already very, works pretty well already. Yeah.
Amazing. Wonderful, Leo. Well, thanks so much for the conversation. How would you like if you could say out loud something where the community could help you, or where they could find you if they wanted to? Tell us a little bit where to find you.
Definitely, they can find me online, of course, on LinkedIn, on my website. And if what I'm currently realizing, that more and more people get really interested about the concept, is the concept of engineering serendipity. So engineeringserendipity.org, where people can just find the 10 laws of serendipity and engineering serendipity, and trying to find balance in a life that you want to create, that is meaningful, makes you happy, and is joyful. And I think this is something that could be interesting for some people, probably.
Amazing. Yeah, I feel this could be like a new keyword to represent the manifestation and affirmations kind of work. Is it some kind of related maybe?
Definitely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Leo.
Thank you so much for the invite, and have a great day.
Bye bye.
Bye.